Sometimes, the quietest moments on television say the loudest things. A father sits beside his daughter, his voice calm but heavy with control. The camera rolls, and millions of viewers suddenly feel something they can't describe, a chill that runs deeper than words. Tonight, we revisit the scene that left fans speechless, not because of drama or betrayal, but because of something much quieter, much stranger. This is the story of Kody Brown, and the advice that changed how the world saw him forever. It was supposed to be a simple conversation, a father guiding his daughter about love. Aurora Brown, gentle and soft-spoken, sat beside her father, smiling nervously as the TLC cameras focused in. Kody leaned forward, his tone fatherly, yet oddly intense. He spoke about purity, about protecting yourself, about how men will take what they can unless you draw a line. On paper, those might sound like words of guidance. But the way he said them, the pauses, the stares, the subtle emphasis, made everyone watching shift uncomfortably in their seats. The moment aired for less than 5 minutes. Yet within hours, clips of it were everywhere: TikTok, Reddit, X, Facebook groups. Fans said it felt too personal, too invasive, too scripted to be natural, and too real to ignore. Greater than, "This isn't a dad giving advice," one fan commented. "This feels like control disguised as love." To understand why this moment hit so hard, you have to go back, long before Aurora, long before the show. Kody Brown wasn't always the controversial reality star we know today. He began as a man with a dream, a man who believed in plural marriage as a divine calling. In the early 2000s, the Browns were a symbol of faith and family unity. Kody had 4 wives: Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robin. Together, they raised 18 children. They laughed, prayed, and filmed their lives in front of the world, promising that love, even when divided by 4, could still be whole. But time, fame, and ego began to crack the illusion. One by one, the wives left, until only Robin remained. And Kody was no longer the confident patriarch, but a man struggling to keep control of what little he had left. That's where Aurora comes in, Robin's daughter, but one Kody has long claimed as his own. To him, she is the proof that family can still work, if only everyone listens to him. So when he sat her down that day, he wasn't just talking about dating. He was talking about control, about keeping something pure in a world he could no longer manage. The words he used that day carried a strange mix of faith and fear. He told Aurora to stay pure until marriage, that she should guard her body and heart. He warned her about men who don't think with their brains, about temptation, and about the sacred bond of waiting. But as Aurora tried to smile, her discomfort was visible. She nodded politely, glancing toward the cameras, maybe hoping the moment would end soon. Online, the world saw something else. Not faith, but fear. Not protection, but possession. "It's like he was trying to control her choices," one fan wrote. "You can protect your daughter without making it sound like she's property." Psychologists who analyze the clip noted that Kody's phrasing mirrored what many call religious paternalism, a belief system where fathers see themselves as moral gatekeepers of their daughter's purity. It's not uncommon in conservative households. But when broadcast to millions, it hit differently, almost archaic, almost invasive. And in that discomfort, the internet found a villain. Within hours, #Kody Brown started trending again, not because of divorce rumors or new drama, but because of this 5-minute talk. YouTube compilations labeled it Kody's creepiest scene. Yet, TikTok creators mimic the moment, rolling their eyes or reenacting it with sarcastic voiceovers. Podcasts began dissecting every word, from the way he said, "purity," to the look in Aurora's eyes. And the fans, they weren't just gossiping, they were angry. "We watched Kody control 4 women for years," one Reddit user said. "Now he's doing it to his daughter. This isn't guidance. This is generational control." TLC, as always, stayed silent, but the silence spoke volumes. The scene stayed in the episode. They didn't cut it, didn't blur it, didn't defend it. And that decision, to let the world see, made it even more haunting. Because suddenly, Sister Wives wasn't about plural marriage anymore. It was about something much darker. How a man, once the symbol of faith, had become the face of control. The internet never sleeps. By the next morning, thousands of stitches, duets, and reaction videos flooded every feed. Clips slowed down Kody's expression, zoomed in on Aurora's uncomfortable smile. The same 5 minutes were replayed from every possible angle. Kody, once seen as a stubborn father but still a man of conviction, was now being described with harsher words: controlling, manipulative, unsettling. Reporters reached out for comment. None came. Instead, Kody was seen days later in a confessional clip, blaming editing and perception. He said, "I was just giving fatherly advice. People twist things." But perception, once set loose online, rarely returns to silence. Viewers didn't just see editing. They saw truth, or at least, what truth looked like in that flicker of discomfort on Aurora's face. Aurora herself said very little. In one brief social media story, she thanked fans for their concern, but asked them to respect her privacy. Her words were polite, but her eyes, tired. The audience projected its own emotions onto her quietness. Some called her brave. Some called her trapped. Everyone called her watched. That's the strange cruelty of reality television. It gives a voice to the voiceless, yet steals the space to breathe. Aurora's silence became louder than Kody's speech. "Maybe she's protecting him," a fan wrote. Or maybe she's protecting herself. The speculation only deepened the unease. And for the first time, even loyal viewers began questioning whether the show should go on. When fans looked back through old footage, they began noticing things they had ignored before. The interruptions when Christine tried to speak. The dismissive laughter when Janelle disagreed. The long silences that always ended with Kody's voice taking control. This, they realized, wasn't new. It was a pattern: control dressed as conversation, authority disguised as love. Sociologists who studied Sister Wives pointed out something striking. The show had become an accidental documentary on power imbalance. Every smile, every sigh, every nod told a story about hierarchy. Kody's advice to Aurora was simply the latest chapter, the first time the imbalance slipped outside marriage and entered parenthood. And that made it even harder to watch. Reality TV justice is swift and merciless. The comments sections became courtrooms. Viewers acted as judge and jury. Some tried to defend him. "He's just an old-fashioned dad," they said. But most were unconvinced. Petitions started circulating demanding TLC to protect the children of Sister Wives. Others called for Kody's removal from future seasons. Podcasts, talk shows, even morning news segments joined the storm. Yet through it all, Kody appeared unchanged. Arms folded, voice steady, claiming everyone else was overreacting. That, perhaps, was the moment fans realized something deeper. Kody wasn't listening anymore. Not to his wives, not to the audience, not even to the mirror. Weeks later, another scene aired. Kody sitting alone in the confessional room, a shadow cutting across his face. He spoke about being misunderstood, about trying to raise good children. But the sadness in his eyes hinted at something else, loneliness. The plural husband who once commanded 4 households now sat in a single chair, surrounded by silence. The empire he built on faith had collapsed under the weight of ego. Aurora's awkward moment had simply shown the crack that was already there. Because this was never just about advice. It was about a man clinging to relevance, about a father trying to hold on to control when the world had moved beyond him. When you strip away the cameras, the makeup, the editing, what remains is human fragility. A father afraid of losing his daughter to adulthood. A daughter afraid of disappointing the man who raised her. And millions of strangers watching, judging, feeling. Maybe that's why the scene felt so wrong. Because it reminded us of our own imperfections, our own fears of letting go. In the end, the internet's outrage wasn't just about Kody. It was about every parent who crosses that invisible line between care and control. Every daughter who smiles politely, wishing the conversation would end. Sometimes, the narrator's voice softens. The creepiest thing isn't the words we say, but the silence we force others to keep. Kody's creepy advice to his daughter has fans speechless, and maybe that silence says more than words ever could. This story is not about villains or heroes. It's about patterns, power, and the way love can lose its shape under the spotlight. Maybe, in seeing their story, we'll learn to speak more gently in our own.